So we'll start. So welcome everyone for joining this Earthworm webinar on charcoal. As you can see, so objective of this webinar is really to talk about how does transparency contribute to transforming the European charcoal market. I will moderate this. This webinar, the speaker will be Lucas as well, and Robin, as you can see. Normally you can see our face, you can see the camera. So we can start by potentially showing the agenda. So we will, during the webinar, we will present our organization. Many of you already know Earthworm Foundation, but we'll briefly present it, explain more in depth our charcoal program and our fieldwork. We will also speak about the custom analysis. Lucas will speak about it. We have a Zoom on Ukraine in Namibia done by Lucas and Rubin. And we will also present you charcoaltransparency.org, so the website, and also the survey. And Lucas will go into detail to explain it to you. And at the end, we have a call for action. So how to organize this webinar? So you have, in this webinar, you have question and response. So if you have questions, do not hesitate to click on that and to ask your question in typing it. You have also the chat. So during this webinar, we try to answer to the questions. So it should last 45 minutes till 11:45. And then normally, if we respect the timing, then we'll have 15 minutes to answer to all the remaining questions. So now start explaining who is Earthworm Foundation. So we may know us maybe more under the Forest Trust TFT. So Earthworm Foundation is a new name from TFT. We have been funded. We are funded in 1999 by an Australian forester called Scott Boynton. We are a member-based organization. And our mission is to work in supply chain, and we have expertise in social and environmental issue. We are 250 people and present in 16 offices, and we cover the 5 continents. So on the left side, you have our coat of arms. Compassion, courage, humility, trust, and respect are our values. And as you can see, the earthworm is in the roots of the tree. So this is also a symbol. If we take an organization, an enterprise, it can be represented as a tree. The fruits of this tree are the products, and the supply chain as the roots. So the earthworm and our DNA is really to go in the roots, in the supply chains, to help fertilize the soil and solve issues. So we are not doing any kind of certification. We have beyond certification approach, and we work to help our members to solve environmental and social issues linked with the supply chain. We also work on a lot of different commodities like pulp and paper, biomass, wood, but also other non-food commodity like food commodity like palm oil, soy, cacao, and many others. So our DNA is always to protect forests and to also help the people. So in order to protect, our forest is under pressure with climate change. We see it, and forest is really important on Earth. 1.6 billion people live from there. 30% of the land worldwide are covered by forest. It's 80% of biodiversity. It remains a forest. You know that well. And charcoal is already connected to forest because most of charcoal bought in Europe came from forest. So 50% of the wood cut, the world forest, is dedicated to be transformed into energy. And on top of on that, you have 17% transformed into charcoal. So from a global point of view, and according to the FAO, it can contribute to 2 to 7% of greenhouse gases anthropogenic emission, means done by the human. So it's important, and we have also many problems and issues linked with the charcoal.
So thank you, Pierre. So yeah, if we focus on the environmental issues associated with charcoal production, first, we have a high conversion rate from wood into charcoal, because 1 ton of charcoal demands between 4 to 12 tons of wood. As Pierre already mentioned, our global forests are under assault, so it's very important to play a key emphasis on the raw materials, so the wood used to produce charcoal. We have greenhouse gas emission during the production due to inefficient production technologies, the traditional earth mount kiln, for example. We have forest degradation as a problem in the provision of the forest resources, the biomass to produce charcoal. On the social side, we have forced labor, a violation of human rights, land use conflicts, occupational health and safety issues due to, in many parts of the world, the informality of the supply chain, and especially on the lower lands or at the beginning of the supply chain, weak governance structures, which create the environment where unfortunately these practices can occur. And on the economic part, what we have and observe are unfair remuneration practices, a risk of debt bondage, and absence of legal regulations, which is also due to the informality of the value chain. And of course, these problems occur differently along charcoal supply chains in different parts of the world. However, just to give you an understanding of pressing issues connected to the trade and production of charcoal. So if we now want to be a bit more concrete and have a look on how the charcoal supply chains are composed of, in Eastern Europe, you start on the right-hand side with a forest where wood is provided due to forest management operations, sent to production factories where it's carbonized. And from these production factories, it's sent to packing sites where the charcoal then is packed in the final ready products, which are transported via importers to retailers. So this is, for example, the Eastern European one. And for Africa, it looks slightly different, because especially in the beginning of the supply chain, you have a lot of additional steps. So you have the forest providing the wood, and then you have farmers or workers carbonizing this wood, mainly in rural areas, decentralized. They then sell it to factories, packing sites, where the charcoal is either finished, so packed into bags, or exported as bulk charcoal via importers to retailers in Europe. So to follow up on this, I hand over to Pierre.
Thank you, Lucas. So yeah, characteristics of this market is the opacity. As you can see here, you have a lot of different flows, charcoal flow coming from different aspects. So as you can see, you have different technology, like in Africa. Lucas, please can click on the other slide so that we can see the different technology. And also charcoal is not here included within the European Union timber regulation. So there is no regulation on that. And that's a characteristic. Please. So here we will speak about the charcoal, our charcoal program. So the charcoal program lasts for, since 2012. We work with 14 members and partners, and we are really based on field. So we really engage with retailers, importer, producer, to be really engaged on that. Next slide, please, Lucas. In this slide, you can see really the slide is because of the opacity. We always ask everyone to ask for transparency. it's really the strategy that has been developed from the charcoal team over the last years, and we work with these people on this supply chain. So we work a lot with the members, with retailers, with traders, with producers. And the aim of that is really to explain, um, the product story till the end. Next slide, please, Lucas. So, and based on that, and our model of change is always this VTTV model, as we can see before. This VTTV model is really the model of change to bring change. So we develop it within charcoal team and with our charcoal program. And this is the four main criteria. So as you can see, because of the opacity, and there is a need to have a lot of transparency in the whole supply chain. So to check where the wood is transformed into charcoal, know the carbonization plant. If you cannot know the carbonization plant, you cannot get access to the forest. So you cannot have the link. So having the link and transparency is really important. Second aspect is really the production and distribution process. So you need, as Lucas said, you need a lot of wood to transform it into 1 ton of charcoal. So 4 to 12 tons of wood, and it depends on the technology. So the technology also rejects Paris gases. So it's really important to take it into account. Also, we rely on the sustainable management forest. It's really important to know that if you take wood, it has to be taken from a well-managed forest. It can be certified, it can be checked forest. So it's really important to get to know where it is. And for sure, it's really important to check and to see the human rights. So these four main criteria are really the basis of our work. And we engage our members, importers, retailers, producers, to commit to respect this value and to develop it. So we check this commitment underground with a tool called charcoal control system, and you may have seen a lot of that. So we assess these four criteria, and after having assessed these four criteria on the ground, on the production, on the packing side, we can communicate on the responsible charcoal transparency initiative. Briefly to remind you the charcoal program. So we did a lot of innovation to ask for transparency. Transparency really is the key, what we did. The charcoal control system, so we created in 2014, and we have roughly now 200 field visits done using this methodology. We invented the charcoal bags analysis in 2014, and we launched a lot of survey 2015, 16, 17, 18, and so on and so on. So we start by France and we expanded to Germany, and then, as you may have heard, other people are doing it, like WWF and Warnstiftung, and in other places in Belgium and the UK. So we just invent the methodology, and then we are not experts, we are not laboratory, but people can do it to really know what is inside the charcoal bag. We did a film about that, and if you would like to get more information, we can send you the link. And in 2019-20, we launched the Responsible Charcoal Platform in order to give let's say a full transparent product to people. And we will talk about it later. So I'm not talking too much about that right now. Lucas will talk about it later. Just as a matter of context, to explain why for us it's really important to go on charcoal bags transparency. First, it's not included within the UTR. There is no mandatory declaration of wood species, no mandatory declaration of country of production, missing link to carbonization plant. When we did our survey, for instance, even last year, on 44%, people did not declare on the bags analyzed people did not mention the origin, the wood, the carbonization plant, the country of origin. So this opacity may be an obstacle on having more responsible product. We really make a link between the opacity and the link, potential link with deforestation and social issues. So it's really important for us as a main message that you really understand that this has to be integrated and respected by most of, and asked by most of the buyers. Next slide, please. And these buyers are really an important leverage to play. Normally, the change that happened within Earthworm is our members may get some campaigns, some weekend campaigns, some activities, and then we react. So what happened with the charcoal program is that it was proactive thing. It was done thanks to the leverage of the retailers, thanks to the engagement. So we work with them to assess what is the most important forest footprint you get. And when we analyze it, and the non-food, we saw that it was coming from charcoal. So we launched a lot of innovation in order to launch people and to have a positive effect. So, and now a lot of retailers engage to respect these 4 main criteria, and then we can do a lot of continuous improvement methodology, transformation of the plant, create continuous improvement there. So you can see on the right side the field work, the field visit, this field visit and the result of this field visit can be communicated as well on the platform called Responsible Charcoal. I hand over to Lucas so that he can explain to you our charcoal methodology.
Yeah, so key part of our work, as Pierre already mentioned, is the assessment of charcoal production site on the ground. So where wood is carbonized into charcoal. And we invented, therefore, the charcoal control system, CCS. And the CCS system is based on our 4 indicators, the DNA Pierre already mentioned. And if we want to assess a new supplier, we first go into a traceability mapping based on data received from our partner. We do a desk assessment in the area where we are going on environmental and social risks. And then we send out a CPR before the visit to the production site, where we ask for data on wood, charcoal shipments. And with this declared data, we then, during the visit day, we compare the data that we received to the ones that has been actually obtained on site, followed up by a corrective actions and recommendations written in a report to be sent to the partner who mandated us. So how does it work? We assess 4 categories based on the 4 pictures and 4 categories of our responsible charcoal definition. We visit the forest. We first visit the production site. Here, if you see, look at the supply chain on the bottom, you see the packing sites and the production factory. We do an assessment of the working conditions also there in these places. Then we do a documentation review, so the transparency aspect, and this focuses along all the supply chain, which is sort of a transaction verification about all the different input data we receive along the supply chain. And then we do a forest visit at the end where we check type of raw material, species used, and the supply area. And the forest visit mainly is done in the main procurement area of the respective supplier, the one we assess. So at the end, we will give the person who mandated us a CCS report where we highlight the main recommendations and a description of the observed situation during the visit. We ask our partner to send this report to the respective producer to allow them to start implementing a continuous improvement approach, which will be measured and followed up by us through follow-up visits and reports. And we give the producer the opportunity to really look how he evolves over time. If we want to have a look on what we have done since 2014, we've been to more than 14 countries, in total more than 187 visits, with the main focus on Ukraine and Namibia, around between 35 and 40 visits in each of these countries. So Pierre, what is this with responsible charcoal?
Yeah, this slide is made homemade slide also analyzed from different things. So it's last from 2018. I know we are now preparing, or maybe the 2021 season is already finished. So, but it just to give you an overview about, according to the data we get, what is the percentage of responsible charcoal and what is the percentage of local production. So it's really important to mention just here that there is a lot of, over the last years and what happened over the market, that more and more demand on responsible charcoal, but so far there is not a lot of offer to deliver it. So, and also according to the data we get and according to the data we collect, it's very complex to really bring a lot of transparency about the figures. So Lucas will present you some figures about it, and according to the data we get. But it is some trends, and it has to be taken as main trends. Lucas?
Yeah, so just again here, so you have on the top bar, you see imports, European imports for 2018, around 72% and 28% of charcoal production. So this is the total EU charcoal turnover in this year, around 1 million tons. And from this, we could say that Earthworm assessed around 15, 16, 70% and FSC the same. However, of course, FSC is growing, so the trend of definitely might have changed. What remains is that we have an unverified origin, and unfortunately we did not include PEFC data in this slide because we had no data available on this. However, unverified origin in this regards means only that it's been not assessed by one of the prevailing verification systems, Earthworm and FSC, which shows us the distribution, that there is still a lot to do. And this is only a time shot then, so it probably changed over the last years, and we would be very happy to get more information about this data. So to focus on where Europe is buying his charcoal from, we have four main biggest supplying countries. This is Ukraine, Nigeria, Cuba, and Namibia. They comprise together 60% of all European charcoal imports. We had a total imports of 752,000 tons. If you compare this to a production of 280,000, so European production, you see we are a very import dependent continent. And if we want to have a look on these four countries in a more time perspective, we give you here a slide which shows you the trends from 2010 to 2019, the imports for these four countries. And you see that all of these countries have been, increasing their charcoal demand and charcoal supply to Europe. Nigeria, Ukraine are quite grown and well-situated partnering countries, and Cuba and Namibia are emerging charcoal producers. However, these production and increase rates are quite significant and important. And and Ukraine is still today the biggest European charcoal supplier. So if you look at Ukraine and you zoom in on the left side, you see the production and export data. And in 2010, we had more production than export. If you go to 2018, we have no data for 2019, you see that production and export more or less equaled out, which means that not only the production has further increased, but also the export. So Ukraine production increased by 47%, but the exports by a staggering 116%. So Ukraine is really a key market in the production and export of charcoal, with a dramatic shift also, of course, in the industry sector there. And where is this charcoal going to? A great share goes to Poland, 39%, and 18% goes to Germany, which means that almost 60% of this charcoal goes to only two countries. And if we want to zoom on Poland, Poland is a sort of transit country for charcoal. The Polish production does not mean the Polish export rates. However, the production for Poland is also estimated. If you look around these years, 16, 17, 18, in blue you see production, in orange you see imports, and in gray you see exports. The production is always estimated very high, around 160,000 tons. Based on our information, and we've been working a long time, in this sector now. We estimate the production of Poland, the real production, around 70,000 tons, which means that these exports, high exports, cannot be met with the local production. And we have high imports weight, which make it quite obvious that probably a lot of charcoal is just repacked and then further sold into Europe. Where are the imports from Poland coming from? You have 47% from Ukraine and 35% from Nigeria. And Nigeria is always an interesting example to look at, because it unfortunately does not tell you very much. You only know that it's a big European charcoal supplier. And in 2019, Nigeria officially stated 13,000 tons of export, where the EU imported 139,000 tons. So it leaves us sort of in a vague situation where we just again have to say that this is translated to missing transparency, missing data coherence and accuracy for sure, but also shows us the message that it's hard to tell what to believe and which flow to follow. And it's key to know where your charcoal is coming from. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lucas. Just to remind the key fact, as you can see here, and Lucas explained it perfectly, Europe imports still a lot of charcoal. 70% of charcoal is imported, coming from Ukraine, Namibia. Poland is a producer, so a trader, and Nigeria are still significant. So responsible charcoal demands keeps increasing. However, there is not enough quantity to answer to this demand. So we really recommend all customers, and it happened, and big retailers already took this decision to support people engaged to supply responsible charcoal, to do a long-term contract to help them to invest, help them to engage actions on the ground, to do transformation on the ground on the long term, so that they can really develop that. So it's needed on many places, on many producing countries like Ukraine or Namibia. It's needed to keep on investing and supporting it. And it's really also needed to help to relocalize production. And so we still have on market demand a discrepancy between the offer and the demand. So the price also has to be adapted to it, because if we pay a very, very low price, it's complex to get a very responsible charcoal. So this is also a link between the price evolution, and the price evolution has to be adapted to the market evolution towards more responsible charcoal. So now we will just jump into two areas where we can see, as you can see, Ukraine and Namibia, because it's two big producing countries importing in Europe. Now, Ukraine, Robin, it's up to you.
Yep, thank you, Pierre-Olivier. So as we've already been through, Ukraine is a massive producer for Europeans. It produces up to one fourth of all charcoal that is used in the European Union. It is an extremely corrupt country at all levels of the supply chain, and goes all the way up to the government. And one of the major issues, and one of the problems that we have linking to corruption, is the fact that there's a massive amount of illegally logged timber. And the corruption goes so far as that even certification bodies are struggling to have certified charcoal that can really be verified at all stages of the supply chain, because sometimes even the locals, that they can falsify documentation, and this can also be a problem for certification. And so for Ukraine, where we really want to focus our efforts is especially at the forest level, where the illegal logging happens. So here I just outline a bit the issues that we find with certification, and how they're trying to struggle to improve the situation. On the graph below on the left, you can see that basically FSC has been certifying more and more charcoal since 2010, but also terminating more and more certificates. This is because every time new frauds are found, so they terminate a certificate, and then a company might either close down and open under another name, or just recreate a new certificate in a different way, and then the fraud is found again, and then it will be terminated again. We're seeing a decline in terminated certificates between 2019 and 2020. We know that FSC is working on solutions to tackle these issues. Unfortunately, they're still not exactly to the point where we'd want them to be, but we do encourage them to continue these efforts. On the graph on the right, we can just see that terminated certificates account for 46% of all certificates ever given out in Ukraine, which is a high amount. Thanks, Lucas. Next slide. So our approach for Ukraine up till now, we've done many visits in the country. We've assessed forest sites, analyzed the risks in the forests. We've asked for transparency throughout all of the supply chain with clear traceability processes. We've checked human rights issues, workers' rights, health and safety issues within production facilities. And we've engaged producers to improve their production processes, improve efficiency, and promote more environmental friendly methods, because in Ukraine, most of the charcoal is produced with quite polluting technologies. In addition, we've been trying to work a lot with local NGOs and with the FSC to tackle the issues in corruption and to see what we can do to move forward further. One problem is that it's very difficult for us to verify illegal logging practices on the ground. Next slide, please. So for this, for going forward, we intend to partner up with local forest experts who will work with us as consultants for specifically the forest part. So knowing our member supply chains and analyzing our member supply chains all the way back to the forest source, our local experts will be able to check illegal logging in these areas and feed back the information to us. And then we can then feed back the information to our members, and so that we have a clear verified supply chain throughout. So this is something that we intend to implement moving forwards, and our members will be, this will be communicated to our members in due time. Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you, Robin. So also to give a snapshot of Namibia and the Namibia work we are doing, I just want to first introduce the topic to you. As already mentioned, Namibia is taking more and more shares of the European imports. Last year, 2018, it was 6%. 2019 has been already 10% of the total market share. Namibia today is the 6th largest charcoal exporter in the world, with main export markets to South Africa, Germany, and the UK. And the Namibian charcoal has a special story to tell, as it's based on invasive bush species as a raw material. So these bush species grow uncontrolled on former overgrazed farmlands. And one way to clear this farmland is the production of charcoal. And then afterwards, so if you've cleared the land from the bush, you can then reinstate the land and use it as cattle ranching again, which is, from the environmental and social aspect side, a very good approach to add value to a product that is right now causing more problems than solutions. So we see a surge in FSC certificates coupled with this, as FSC has been very active to develop its program in Namibia, which we will very much endeavor and encourage. However, we see that the working conditions for charcoal burners, especially on the lower ends and the beginning of the supply chain, so at the start of the supply chain, needs to be improved and can be improved. We see that Namibia today exported 2019 180,000 tons of charcoal. Never before, I think, they exported that much. So if you look in the supply chain, you see that it starts with the forest, so with the bush material. We have around 10,000 workers working in the whole industry, which debush the bushland, carbonize the charcoal, sells the charcoal to the farmers. They are subcontractors of the farmers. They live on the farms together with their family. The farmer, 750 farms approximately, sells the charcoal to the processors. In the processor side, the charcoal is bagged, either in final products or in bulk, and then exported via importers to to retailers. And how we work, we ask on the retailer level, so on the left for transparency and efficacy. We then partner with European retailers to implement, to go on the ground and implement our CCS methodology, and to then measure continuous improvement via our CCS methodology. So the Namibian charcoal supply chain, if you look on the certification scheme, FSC, as already mentioned, today we have around 25% of all farms. So this level here is FSC certified, and 75% is still missing in certification. We have a huge surge in FSC certificates, and FSC really helped to give this industry a framework to work in. And we really encourage everyone to support FSC on this mission, as we do. And as already said, we still see some problems on the social aspects. So we see some problems here on the workers' part and the farmers' part. We focus our main work. 60% of our earthworm field visits has been here on the workers' part, and 40% here in the packing sites. And the things we have, we call it the social challenge. Industry challenge is the social challenge. What we have is a BSCI standard, which is basically the a social standard implemented on the processor level. We have the FSC COC standard implemented as an additional control on the processor and farm level, so factory and farm level. But we have no dedicated social standard on the farm level. And what we observed are occupational health and safety problems, insufficient and unclear payment practices, unfortunately usage of labor brokers, and the missing transparency of charcoal flows. What we offer to our partners is to follow our VTTV model. So we start with the values. We define sustainable charcoal sourcing, production, and processing guidelines, where we particularly focus on workers' rights. We then deploy a sort of social performance measurement tool, which is, we call Know Your Supply Chain Impact. So what gov data is it connected to your supply chain? How many people are working there? What are the food prices? How are the housing conditions? And then based on this data set along a certain supply chain, we try to identify better practice examples to improve workers' livelihoods. Yeah, so we target specific programs and projects to generate the added value. And this is followed up by verification, where we continuously go on the ground to measure what has been done. A simple example on the left, and here also an example from a non-FSC certified farm. On the left, you see houses with black plastic sheets, and on the right, you see traditional houses. And these better living conditions then at the end for the charcoal workers are really the things that should motivate us to increase and scale up the already positive developments altogether in Namibia.
Thank you very much, Lucas. We are a little bit late on the planning, but wanted to talk about the Responsible Charcoal Initiative, and mention it to you that this platform has been created in June 2019, thanks to the support of our members. So our members support this and created it, and so it's a member-oriented platform dedicated to communicate to everyone, to all the customer can have access to your product is connected to the forest, and where your product is really produced, where your product is coming from. So you can have access to QR codes. We really presented briefly, but we really encourage you to look at the website charcoaltransparency.org to go much more into the detail. Lucas, you were very fast, but
yeah, sorry.
That was fine. That was fine. So you can see, I will go on in that case. You can see the members. The members have a login password access. With this login password access, they can access to QR code, and with this QR code, then they can print it at the bag, and consumer can have access to get to know where your product is coming from. So as you have seen all the 4 criteria and explained to you, Lucas explained the methodology on these 4 criteria as assessed, it gives a scoring, and people can get to know where the product is really coming from. So my origin, my journey, my production, and my evaluation. And on the left side, you can see something which is new to the one, and it's very new, it's live now. It's the survey score. It's linked with a survey we sent to many of you already. And this survey will explain it more precisely what it is. Lucas?
Yes. So the Charcoal Transparency Survey is a way for non-CTI members to provide product information about their supply chain and product and transparency information, to upload these then on our platform. The survey score has a score from A to E, and it is sort of a standardized assessment methodology open to all industry participants and linked directly to our platform. So how does it work? Many of you have received already our links. So you start the survey, you provide company information, you provide product information with a key focus on transparency indicators like declared country of origin and country and wood species used. And in this feature, you can not only give your product information, but you can also upload a product picture and then upload the product altogether itself. This product is sent to our database, and then you provide supply chain information. And at the end, we will do an assessment of the information you provided. And if you agree to our terms and conditions, we can upload the information you gave to us after an assessment together with the product picture and product information on our survey. So we have a score from A to E. Here you see a B, for example. Here you see an E. And what does this score mean? So we have a grading system, as said, from A to E with percentage ranges, which equals to the assessment, which are linked to the assessment process from 0 to 100% in different color codes. So a product that is A, for example, is in our definition fully transparent regarding its supply chain and production processes. The company that produces the product is engaged and implements all the necessary control actions with external partners, and all transparency data is systematically shared with our foundation. E would be unfortunately no answer. This product is not transparent. The company has not provided us with traceability or with information that would guarantee their commitment. So we offer everyone to participate and to link your products and your product information on a voluntary basis, to link your products to our platform, to provide actually the European consumer also with a chance to get more information about the charcoal he's buying. So what do I need to get an A? We need a complete filled out survey, which covers information on responsible sourcing, cooperation and engagement, as well as carbon reduction efforts. We then product information, we need a special focus on country of origin and wood species used. And supply chain, we need the place of production and the wood sourcing area.
So thank you very much, Lucas. Just to remind on the survey, it's really the opportunity to everyone to have the chance to communicate and to engage and to communicate their level of transparency. So do not hesitate to answer to the survey, and do not hesitate to post your product on the platform as well. We come to the end of this this webinar. Just a call for action at the end. Call for action at 2 levels. At the European norm, we know that the norm is going to be revised. So we really ask that this revision will be better. So really important to have this transparency indicator, declare country of origin, declare wood species. That's really important. Second aspect is also the European Union timber regulation. This year, there is a consultation and we really encourage that these transparency indicators will be also integrated, as well as carbonization plant, which is really important to get to know and connect with the forest. So, next slide, please. So, yeah, we will communicate a lot about this platform in the past. We will communicate again this year. We didn't communicate a lot, but next year, we'll communicate much more. And I'm sure that the survey will be a good opportunity to everyone to really be more engaged, and so that we have a good communication and good information for the end customer. Yeah, so to conclude, on the next slide, it's really important to, as we may, at the beginning, we're asking a question how transparency can contribute to transforming the European charcoal sector. We've seen that the European charcoal sector moved, that there is a demand on more responsible charcoal, like FSC, PFC product, and we really are happy about that, and we support what is done and all the effort that has been done with FSC, particularly in Ukraine and in Namibia. We still have a lot of challenge. There is still a lot of challenge. There is still a lot of opacity. So it's really the responsibility of everyone to ask for more transparency, to reinforce, to accelerate local transformation, which is so needed with the climate change crisis we are living. And we really encourage everyone to be engaged and to be much more transparent about the charcoal origin. So on the bag, written on the bag, carbonization plant, wood species, country of origin, support what is done by FSC and PFC and reinforce the robustness of the system, include charcoal within the UETR, strengthen the norm, and also engage. And yeah, let's be engaged. So we have some questions. We have some questions about the recording. Yes, you can have access to the recording. We also have other question, like, are you able to reduce duplication of F4 where assessment evaluation have been done by other organizations? Yes, this is exactly what Robin were presenting with Ukraine regarding this aspect to work with other people, and also and to answer to the question, can you represent the risk of sourcing from different countries, different supplier geographies? It's difficult to do like kind of map of risks regarding this. Particularly, we rely on the risk approach matrix done by Earthworm, but we really need to get the transparency till the carbonization plan to answer to that. Do you have any other question? Other question maybe would be.
I think if someone wants to speak or raise a question, I think he can raise his hand, and then we see if we can
exactly
are able to manage this to grant him permission to speak. So if someone
also other question related to the QR code. So regarding the platform and the QR code, so live, you can have access, you type the product, and with the website, you can have access to the product and the product story right on the internet. This website, Charcoal Transparency, is also responsive, so you can have access on your mobile phone to the information. And if you would like to get a QR code, you need to be engaged with Earthworm, or to be engaged with people working with Earthworm. Means that we went to the ground to check the 4 criteria, means transparency, production, respect of people, and forest.
Yeah, so Sebastian, there's a question from Sebastian. What can we as producers do to influence the new DIN norm, for example?
So yeah, I think on that aspect, there is, it's really depend on all the country has to come back to their representative of the norm. So it can be DIN in Germany, AFNOR in France, and to come back to that, to be in touch with them, and to be included into the working group for of the revision. revision. So we encourage all the factories having sites in a European Union to come back to the local norm and to be part of the revised norm. And we, if needed, we can give to the one who. Yes, alors it's at the European level. There is a working group at the European level, and you will be involved into this. So each local representative will be afterwards be involved into the working group at the European level. So one country is one vote. So, and if you are aligned on the asking for more transparency, then the norm will be maybe better.
Yeah, we have two people who would like to speak. So from FSC Ukraine, Pablo.
Yes. So Lucas,
you
can give him.
Pablo is working. Hello.
Yeah. Okay. Are you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Lucas. I would like to thanks for your webinar and opportunity to make some very short ask for everybody who involved in a webinar. I would like to invite you to communicate with us, and we would like to provide more information about supply chain integrity charcoal projects and some additional measures to against non-conformist products in Ukraine, as well as some other measures for mitigate risk for non-conformance products comes from Ukraine. Please do not hesitate us, contact with us, and thank you.
Thank you, Pavel.
Many thanks. Many thanks. It's really important that we really support what has been done with FSC over the last year. It was been very intense, and it's not easy. The situation is not easy. So really, it's important that we come directly to the source to get more information about it.
So we have Alistair here who would also like to speak. So Pierre, I grant permission. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Alistair.
Hi there. Thank you very much for all of this. It's really, really interesting. I was just wondering if you're able to talk a little bit about the benefits of participation for the processors and maybe the farmers and even the workers as well with the transparency. Do they feel the benefits going upwards, or is it more about reducing risk for the buyers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's indeed a very, very important question. So it's really different from the two supply chain. You have so we did a lot of work regarding on the European. So it's more related to production plans. So here we have a continuous improvement methodology on production plans where we can monitor improvement done with also workers and people there. And to answer to your question linked with farmers and with workers, it's will last longer, and let's say it's really important, and it's really related to more to Namibia. So Namibia configuration when you have workers living in farm, and it really depends on the mindset of the farmers to help and to develop too. So FSC there is doing good job to help with their internal auditor to improve the situation. Yet it's really dependent on the farmer mindset and this. So it's quite difficult to really monitor what kind of transformation happen on the ground. So on the Namibian project, we try to set up indicators, new indicators, and potentially some of them will be included in a few years with FSC. Why not? To really try to monitor how what kind of improvement could be done on the ground. So it's much more difficult, but we try to do it. And as you were mentioning as well, we are really interested about livelihood situation, and to be sure that people earn enough money and have access to food and I have access to this food. So a lot of things need still to be done to really monitor that, but we hope to be able to provide more information in the near future, to talk more about, let's say, value chain transparency in the future.
Все зразу. Тут і німці паралельно йдуть, і ці, так що я не встигаю переключити.
Lucas, we can
Robin,
see
can you
Pavel.
mute?
You can mute Pavel, Lucas?
Yeah.
Ah.
So,
Other question? Do we have other question? Maybe to answer additional response to you, Alistair, I know we talk about it, and we know also your project, and to talk more about value chain transparency. So really, it could be really interesting to talk more with you and your organization to get to know more, to be innovative, to try to find out local solution adapted to this configuration.
So that would be really great, Pierre. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
question about the revision process on the EOTR. So the current revision is focusing on illegal logging. It's open till end of November. And I think major NGOs have already and will make statements, and we will, of course, support our claim on including charcoal into the European R. How the actual negotiations about this are, we for now don't know.
Yeah, the consultation is open till November. So we are at the end of the presentation. So we see some new input in the chat. So really many thanks all of you to participate in this webinar. It was a real pleasure to share with you this. To remind you that in this sector, transparency can have an impact, positive impact, and we can reinforce again this impact, have more impact, if we are all engaged to be more transparent. So, thank you very much, everyone. Lucas, Romain, thank you very much also for everything